Welcome back, SethBling here. This is my third video on my quest to create 360 Mario-themed custom Magic the Gathering cards for a custom draft cube. So I'm going to need 360 cards. This video, I'm going to talk about 19 cards. I'm up to a total of 67. If you missed the whole thing, what this is all about, my very first video in this series contains a good overview of the whole set, the design principles, and the different strategies that I am hoping to have in the set. So there's a link in the video description. There should be a card on screen as well that you can click on. So if you want to get up to date on this project, just go ahead and click on that and watch that first video. So this video, I'm going to talk about 19 cards. They're listed right here, the first 19 cards in this list. These are the most recent cards I've created. So first, let's talk about Wario Greed Incarnate. This is a 6-drop, that's a lot of mana. Usually 6 drops, especially in the mythic slot or rare slot. Though, of course, with a cube, the rarity actually doesn't matter because there's going to be one of each card in the cube. Anyway, it's a 6-drop, 3/6, not like crazy stats or anything for a 6-drop. But the abilities are pretty good. Tap, gain control of target artifact or creature an opponent controls until end of turn. Untap it. It gains haste until end of turn. Activate this ability only anytime you can cast a sorcery. This is called a Threaten effect after the magic card Threaten. It lets you gain control temporarily of a creature or artifact opponent controls. Usually it's just a creature. This one also just Wario steals artifacts all the time, so I thought it made sense. And so yeah, you get to like attack with the creature and then you give it back. So you like take away one of your opponent's blockers and it becomes one of your attackers. So that's pretty nice. Now the second ability is where Wario really shines. So for 5 mana and by sacrificing 3 artifacts and or creatures, Wario deals 3 damage to target player and you gain 3 life. So if you have 2 extra creatures sitting around, say like a couple of minions, which is one of the themes of the set, especially in the black, red, green colors, is creating 1/1 minions for cheap. Then you can sacrifice 2 of your things and the thing that you've just stolen and attacked with, and you can, drain 3 life. So it's a way, it's not only like this thing that lets you attack with your opponent's creatures and remove their blockers, you can actually permanently remove their creatures and artifacts. It's a very strong combination of abilities. If you've, paid 6 mana to play Wario, you can definitely do this. It does kind of take up your whole turn, but it's just like a very strong thing to do. Now, yeah, like I said, in this set, black, green, red will have a lot of extra creatures just kind of sitting around. So I think this card's pretty strong, but it costs 6 mana, so that's fine, I think. The next card here, basically on stream, we designed this card together. I just loved this art, and I just really wanted to design some card for this art. So we came up with this concept of the expendable army of creatures, and so it's an instant for 3 mana. Cast the spell only during combat after blockers are declared. For each creature that's attacking you or a planeswalker you control, create a 1/1 black minion creature token blocking it. So if 5 creatures are attacking you, you create 5 minions, each blocking one of those creatures. So it's worth noting that this is the kind of effect I'm talking about that can create lots of like temporary creatures. So let's say your opponent attacks you with a bunch of creatures. You surprise them with expendable army. If you already have Wario in play, you gain control of one of their creatures and it removes it from combat. And you can even block with it. And then you could also sacrifice those 3 creatures. Like, it's a very powerful combination of cards. Of course, you would need the 3 mana for this plus the 5 mana for this ability down here. So 8 mana is a lot to spend, but so this is kind of like a fog effect. Fog effects are effects that let you sort of like cancel out of combat, ignore all the damage from one of your combats, in that your opponent's creatures aren't really going to deal damage to you. If you just want to cast this spell, and if none of them have trample, then you can just kind of ignore that combat. With the bonus that you'll kill any creatures that have 1 toughness, but this spell doesn't like prevent you from blocking with your own creatures too. So you can actually have some pretty good blowouts if you have some favorable blocks, and then you can just like chump block with the remaining 1/1s. So I'm not going to say this is like a really powerful spell, but there are definitely some situations where it could be really good. Dry Bones. Oh yeah, I want to say this is sort of like a fog that gives your opponent creatures -1/-1 until end of turn. That's kind of how you can sort of look at it, I think. Dry Bones is a 2/1 for 2, pretty standard. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may pay 2 life. If you do, return Dry Bones from your graveyard to your hand. So you can get him back. This kind of fits with, again, with the minions theme. It's pretty good with Wario. It's a permanent you can sacrifice and then, get it back, get value out of that. So this is pretty straightforward. Fits really well with the minions and villains theme. Now, Dry Bowser is the next card. Before we look at Dry Bowser, I want to look really quickly back at Bowser King Koopa one more time. So this was one of the cards that I showed from the first batch of cards. Bowser is a 5 mana 4/6. It's got Fire Breathing. This ability is generally called Fire Breathing. It's got this other ability which sacrifices creatures or minions, probably. And then it's got the Spawn ability. So if you pay 2 and a green, you create 2 1/1s, and then you can still cast Bowser anytime after that. It exiles this card and you can cast it later. So you kind of create 2 1/1s, and then later on you create Bowser King Koopa. So let's look at Dry Bowser. So Dry Bowser is a little bit cheaper than Bowser. He's a little bit more fragile than Bowser too, right? He's just he's a skeleton, so a little bit more brittle. He's got this fire breathing ability still. Dry Bowser can breathe fire. And he's also got this ability. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may pay 2 life. If you do, return Dry Bowser from your graveyard to your hand. So that's the exact same ability that Dry Bones has. And then he's got this Spawn 2 ability. Remember that Bowser King Koopa also had Spawn 2. This one costs 2 and a green. Dry Bowser's ability costs 1 and a black and pay 2 life. So it's a bit more of a self-harming ability, but it's still a Spawn 2. So anyway, as a whole, Dry Bowser is like a combination of Dry Bones and Bowser, and I think those two designs just melded really well into each other to create this card that's definitely distinct from each of them, but has aspects of each of them. And I like this when I can make cards sort of you can sort of see a theme between the cards and so as you explore more and more of the set, you're gonna be like, oh, I see. That's how these cards fit together, and I like that. Moving on to Behemoth. So Behemoth is from it's one of the new Super Mario Brothers. I think New Super Mario Brothers U maybe. So Behemoth is basically like an auto scroller. He's a really big Boo that takes up the entire left half of the screen and advances forward. If you look at him, he'll stop for a little while, but if you keep staring at him, he'll still advance. So I tried to encompass as much of that as I could. So he's got Indestructible and Trample. He is actually indestructible. Even if you get a power like a star, you can't kill him in game. So that's where Indestructible comes from. And Trample is you can't stop him. Even if you block him, he's just going to go right through you. That's how Behemoth works in game. Behemoth attacks each combat at Fable. So that's supposed to sort of be the, auto scroller aspect of Behemoth. He always advances. When Behemoth attacks, okay, this is a really long sentence. You'll have to bear with me for a sec. Whenever Behemoth attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Then, defending player may tap any number of untapped creatures they control with total power X or greater, where X is the number of +1/+1 counters on Behemoth. Okay, that was a really long sentence. If they do, remove Behemoth from combat. So, every turn, Behemoth attacks and gets a +1/+1 counter. Then this ability here is basically Crew X. So Crew is the vehicle ability. That is actually a sub-theme of the set because there's a big, 1/5 of the set is Mario Kart themed. Let's find a Crew ability. Let's see. Koopa Clown Car has Crew. This is something I showed in the last video. So that's the vehicles, right? So this is basically you have to crew Behemoth. And the flavor there is that it's you have more and more creatures staring down Behemoth, or more powerful creatures. But eventually it's going to get enough +1/+1 counters that if you just keep trying to stare at it, eventually it'll still be able to attack, and it'll be pretty big when it does. It'll be, have a lot of +1/+1 counters. So this is, you can kind of almost think of this as an enchantment that taps down your opponent's creatures, and has an increasing effect over time, so there's some degree of inevitability there if the game stalls out for a long time. But there's the bonus, there's an added side effect that if you can tap down your opponent's creatures before combat, that they were planning on, tapping to prevent Behemoth from attacking, you can get a really nice attack in. And that is actually one of the themes of the set, is tapping down your opponent's creatures. Actually, we'll see in a couple of cards, there's Undo Dog. Anyway, that's one of the cards you could use to surprise them and get in a hit with Behemoth. So this fits in with the set really nicely. And I think it's a pretty good design to encompass the aspects of Behemoth that I wanted to encompass. So here's Counter Spook. I was actually initially that was just like a temporary name, but people in Twitch chat really liked the name, so I just stuck with it. It's supposed to be like a counter spell type card. So it's an instant for 2 and a blue, but it costs 1 less to cast if your opponent controls no untapped creatures. So again, this is the theme of the Ghost House part of the block of the set, is if your opponent controls untapped creatures, that's bad for you, but there's ways of tapping down your opponent's creatures. So for instance, like you might like attack with this, and then your opponent taps down all the creatures, and then they try and play a combat trick, and then you can counter it for 1 less. So counter target spell unless its controller pays 3. This ability appears on Mana Leak most famously, which costs 1 and a blue. So this card is like a conditional Mana Leak. But paying 3 for this effect is not like unreasonable in a limited environment. And then it's also got Spook. So Spook is this ability, is keyword ability that I came up with. Basically, you can play it face down as a 2/2 for 3 mana, which is like the Morph ability. But once that creature dies, then you can play the card for its Spook cost. So instead of Morph, where you have to flip it up face up from the battlefield, this is you get to cast the spell once the creature's died. And also this first clause here, it does apply to the Spook cost. So potentially you could be casting this for a single blue mana later in the game. Though of course, if you're in that board state, then your opponent already knows about Counter Spook because it's been exiled face up from the creature dying. Hopefully that was clear. I don't know. Anyway, moving on to Undo Dog. Again, this okay. So this is a 0/4 for 3. When Undo Dog enters the battlefield, return another target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. So let's say your opponent has 1 untapped creature that they're planning on using to tap down Behemoth. Then you can use Undo Dog to bounce that creature, and then you get an actual hit with Behemoth, which could be really strong. So Undo Dog, I also just love this art and just this concept of, like, it's just a really goofy concept. So anyway, that one's really simple. All right, I'm trying to add some more planeswalkers. My original plan was Rosalina was going to be the only planeswalker because she travels between planets. She's got a spaceship. But Dimentio actually makes sense as well. The Mario Maker theme cares about how many different card types you have amongst permanents you control. And so having a planeswalker on the battlefield is really nice for enabling the Architect keyword, which we'll see in a little bit. Actually, it's on the very next card. So Dimentio, so it's good to have, it's really useful to have planeswalkers if you're in that Mario Maker set of colors, the blue, green, white set of colors. And so I wanted to design, I'm probably going to try and fit in a couple more planeswalkers if I can. Dimentio is from Paper Mario, and he can travel between dimensions, so I thought it actually made a lot of sense as a planeswalker. Also, he created his own dimension, so he kind of fits in with the Mario Maker set of colors. So I think I'm going to probably work on this some more. I don't think these are the final set of abilities, but for now, it's a 4 loyalty planeswalker for 4, +1, tap target permanent, then untap another target permanent. This is Ral Zarix, another planeswalker's exact same +1 ability. -3, gain control of target creature with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of cards in your hand. So if you have 5 cards in your hand, you can gain control of a 5 CMC creature. This ability gets a lot worse late game when you've spent all the cards in your hand, and so that makes Dimentio kind of a bad draw late game, which is one of the balancing factors. It is a pretty strong ability, but if you're not planning on drawing this and you do, you could be sitting there with 1 or 2 cards in hand. You play it down, you're down, and then this ability is not that strong really. So I don't think this card is overall crazy strong. I think it's pretty good if you have it in your opening hand and you're planning on playing it on turn 4 or 5, and you can get some really good value out of it. And then the ultimate, the -7, is for each creature, create a token that's a copy of that creature. So according to the Magic rules, if you create a token, you own and control that token. So this copies every creature on the battlefield, your creatures, your opponent's creatures, and you get copies of them all. If you have any legendary creatures, you only get to keep 1 copy of it. But Dimentio, one of his abilities is that he creates a bunch of illusory copies of things. So he also, the flavor here is that part of the plot of Super Paper Mario is that he brainwashes Luigi, and then this flavor here is that Dimentio, unlike most of the creatures in the Paper Mario games, Dimentio can actually rotate the world 90 degrees like Mario can. So he's got that ability too. And so this is like a miniature version of the rotate card that I showed in the previous video. Yep. So that's Dimentio. Like overall, the flavor's not bad. It's just kind of a lot of relatively bland abilities, but I'll revisit him later and see how I feel. All right, so like I said, having Planeswalkers is really good for the Mario Maker theme. P-Switch is a card in the Mario Maker shard, and we can see why. So Architect is this keyword ability that I came up with. When P-Switch enters the battlefield, if there are 4 or more card types among permanents you control, draw a card. So it's a 1 mana cycler. If you already have, say, like a land and enchantments and a creature, you play P-Switch, now you have an artifact. That's 4 different card types. And you get to draw a card, but if you don't, then it doesn't cycle for a new card. And yeah. So the actual ability of the card, though, is you have to have either blue or white mana. You don't have to have both. And then another mana. So then you sacrifice P-Switch, exile another non-token permanent, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So the idea here is that you're like taking a bunch of blocks and turning them into coins until end of turn, right? You're removing a barrier that was previously there until end of turn. So that's one of the things the P-Switch does in game. This, by the way, is really strong against a couple of different things in this set. So it's very strong against the Heroes and Power-Up Shard, which is all about creating a really powerful hero and enchanting them with auras. This, like, exiles the creature and basically destroys those auras. So that's pretty strong. It's also pretty good against tokens. Oh, actually it's not, because it says non-token permanent. And it's also interesting with spook cards. So for instance, if your opponent has counter spook face down as a 2/2, then and you know that that's what it is. You don't necessarily have any way of knowing what it is, but if you somehow do, you've looked at their hand, you know that they played counter spook face down, then you can exile this card, this 2/2 creature, and then when you try and return it to the battlefield, it'll try and return it face up, because that's just how cards work. And since it's an instant can't ever be on the battlefield, so it'll just stay exiled, and they won't be able to play it or anything. So it's a way of actually removing a face-down spooked card that is not a creature. But it's also a way of cheating your own spook creatures face up. So you could play Big Boo face down for 3 mana as a 2/2, and then use P-Switch on it to exile it and then return it to the battlefield at the end of the turn, and you get this big 6/6 guy that has all these cool abilities. So it's got a lot of interactivity with the different parts of the set. Also it just like enables your Architect. So if you have other cards with Architect, you might just not want to sacrifice it, just to make sure that your other cards with Architect can actually have use Architect. By the way, Architect, the flavor of Architect is since it's the Mario Maker block, is that you've like completed a level. You have 4 different types of cards that are the 4 different not necessarily 4 different, that are different elements of a level, and so it feels like you have a complete level. That's the idea behind Architect. Banana Peel, another 1 mana artifact. So this enables Architect, but doesn't have Architect on it directly. So Banana Peel has flash. White, tap, sacrifice Banana Peel. It deals 3 damage to target attacking creature. That creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. So this effect, this is a Mario Kart themed card. This effect is it's like you're making an opponent's cart spin out on the Banana Peel. So it can actually kill a lot of creatures, attacking creatures. If it doesn't kill it, then it'll at least prevent it from untapping on its next turn. If you play it, and then just leave it on the battlefield, then your opponent sees it coming, and so it's easier to avoid, a giant misstep that's going to really impact your, long-term gameplay prospects. So if you just play it and leave it on the battlefield, maybe to enable Architect or something, that's it's easier to see coming. You might still have to, attack into it at some point, but it's got flash so that you can also if you have 2 mana available, then you can still surprise your opponent with it. So it's sort of like getting right in front of your opponent, like Donkey Kong is, and then Dry Bones is like, oh my god, all of a sudden there's a giant banana, and they can't avoid it. So I think this has really good flavor with banana peels in Mario Kart, and it's got some good interactions with the the architect part of the set and stuff. Okay, moving on. Comet Observatory is a land. So Comet Observatory is the spaceship that Rosalina flies around in Mario Galaxy. This ability here is the ability on Terramorphic Expanse, or I'm blanking on the other card. That's the exact same card. Anyway, tap, sacrifice Comet Observatory, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle your library. So it's a land drop that becomes any basic land that you want, but that land is tapped. But I added another ability to make it just a little bit stronger. 2 tap, sacrifice Comet Observatory, search your library for a land card, put it onto the battlefield, tapped, then shuffle your library. This is the exact same ability, except instead of basic land, it just says land. That's the only difference. So you can get non-basic lands with this card. You just have to pay a bit of extra mana. This is not a card they would print in normal Magic. This would be extremely strong in various constructed archetypes. But for this limited environment, it's totally fine. The lands are not like broken. Yeah, I mean, there are some nice lands that you might want to get, like say, like this one, you can search your library for Last Resort Hotel, and then you'll be able to tap a creature and deal 2 damage to that creature's controller. Or what's another one? Whoops. Wario Stadium, drain 2 life from your opponent. Target permanent gains indestructible until end of turn. So there's some cards you might want to search up for sure, but they're not going to be like broken or like really, Anyway, yeah. So it's just strictly better than Terramorphic Expanse or the other card that I came after Terramorphic Expanse that I can't think of. Anyway, Tanuki Suit is the next card. So we're going to see a few cards in the Heroes and Power-Ups shard, which is the white, green, red shard. So Tanuki Suit is from Mario 3. It's the exact same thing as the Leaf from Mario 3, which gives you flying, which is basically also the same thing as Feather. So I designed previously this card Feather. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has flying. I think I'm supposed to say has flying here. And but it's got this added ability, which increases the cost of the card by 1. 2, enchanted creature gains indestructible until end of turn, remove it from combat. So with the Tanuki Suit, you could turn Mario or Luigi or whoever it was attached to, or whoever was wearing it, I guess, into a stone statue that's immune to damage. And of course it wouldn't, keep fighting whatever it was fighting, but so that's what this ability is supposed to be. So it's just a strict improvement on the Feather or Leaf, but it costs 1 more. Frog Suit. Single blue gets +1/+1. Enchanted creature is unblockable until end of turn. So if you have blue mana, which is like, putting Mario underwater, you can get him. He sort of gains increased maneuverability, which is what the Frog Suit does. That's the only thing the Frog Suit does. So yeah, this is really straightforward. You have to pay 2 mana every turn that you want to attack with a creature, but this is really strong in a set, like I said, in a set of cards where you're trying to build up one creature and attack with it, like a really strong creature. Of course, this is a blue card, which is just outside of the green, white, red set of cards that the Heroes and Power-Ups shard is. So you can't necessarily play with all 3 of those colors, but that's fine. P-Wing, white, red. Target creature gets +3/+0 and gains flying and first strike until end of turn. So P-Wing is an item from Super Mario Bros. 3. It only helps you for the duration of 1 level. It permanently gives Mario the tail, this tail here, which lets him fly. But for the duration of that 1 level, as long as you don't take a hit, you permanently have a full P meter, which means you're instantly sprinting and you can fly immediately. So I wanted P-Wing to be an instant that only lasted for the turn. And so the flying part is pretty obvious, and the first strike part is another, like, you're going really fast sort of thing. And so this is a pretty good combat trick, but it does cost 2 colors. So But you can also use it as a finisher. I think it's really good in the whole like heroes and power up shard. And then Hammer Suit. This is the last power up that I'm gonna show. So it's a 3-mana aura, and it's got a bunch of activated abilities. So for red, you can give enchanted creature +1/+0 and first strike until end of turn. For green, +1/+1 and reach until end of turn. And then for white, you can give it +0/+2 until end of turn. So these are sort of supposed to be the different aspects of the Hammer Suit from Super Mario Bros. 3. So, he throws hammers, and that kind of gives him first strike, right? He can hit you before you can reach him. Also, the hammers get thrown upwards, and so you can hit things that are in the sky, and so it can gain reach. And then also, if you duck while wearing the Hammer Suit, you're kind of immune to damage from things that hit you from above. And so you can kind of get a fat butt. Now, this aura doesn't like provide any persistent effects. You have to spend mana in order to use like any of this stuff, but there are some pretty strong things that make it really strong in combat. Very hard to block. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this is a very strong card just because it costs a lot of mana both on the turn you play it and also every turn that you actually want to use it. But if you do have a lot of extra mana, it can do some very powerful things. All right, Flagpole is a really interesting card. I really like the design of this card. So once again, the theme of Architect is that you've sort of like completed creating a level. And so you're getting some, bonus effect out of like having a finished level that you've, published or whatever. So Flagpole, its whole ability relies on this Architect thing. At the beginning of your end step, if there are 4 or more card types among permanents you control, exile all non-land permanents you control, then search your library for any number of permanent cards that don't share any card types, and put them onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So that's all one sentence. It's, again, a very long sentence. Maybe I should find a way to template it where it breaks it up a little bit more, but so let's unpack this. So this Flagpole is the thing at the end of the level that, once you touch it with Mario, you've completed the level, and you move on to the next level. So at the beginning of your end step, the end of the level, if you have 4 or more card types among permanents you control, so like a land, an enchantment, an artifact, and a creature, maybe you have a planeswalker in there, those are all different card types, then it's like you have a finished level and Mario's completed it, so you clear out this level, exile all non-land permanents you control, and then search your library for any number of permanent cards that don't share any card types and put them onto the battlefield, thus giving yourself Architect once more. Presumably, assuming you have those, enough cards in your library to satisfy Architect, but, and then shuffle your library. So it's like you're clearing out the current level and setting up a new level. Now, searching your library for your like most powerful card of each card type is really strong, but this costs 6 mana. So, and also, it depends what's left in your library. You might have a bunch of cards in your hand that you actually wanted to search for, and you might not be able to get them. So every time you cast this card, it's going to be a little bit different, because you're going to have access to different cards. But it's a very strong effect, but it also requires some degree of setup, obviously 6 mana, and it's going to be a little bit different every time you cast it. I think this card's really interesting. I don't know if it's like too strong, or maybe it's not strong enough. I'm like curious to see how it actually plays out. I also need new art. This is not very good art. Pal Block's a simple one. Deals 2 damage to each creature without flying. So this is like a Pyroclasm effect that only hits creatures without flying. Pal Block was from the original Super Mario Bros. Game that where you hit it and all the creatures that were on the ground would get flipped over. This is a really straightforward flavor and everything. And then Charge and Chuck is from Super Mario World. You may recognize him from my, speed runs, my Credits Warp speedruns or Kill Bowser speedruns. Charge and Chuck is the creature that you eat with Yoshi that you're not supposed to be able to eat with Yoshi. Anyway, Charge and Chuck's a really simple creature. 3/4, attacks each combat if able. I actually thought of making him a 2/3 so that he would have 3 toughness, because in-game you have to hit him 3 times to kill him. But that was a little too close to Angry Sun. Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, we got some new art for Angry Sun. Anyway, so if Angry Sun's a 2/2 that attacks each combat if able, it's also got flying. But so Charge and Chuck, I just made him a 3/4. He's got a fat butt, it's got that padding, so I think it makes sense. One of the things about making 360 cards and like the idea of having people draft from a pool of 360 cards is that you want to reduce the complexity of the set as much as possible so that it doesn't take forever to understand what's going on in the cards that you're looking at. You know, the very first pack you open in a draft has 15 cards, and if all 15 of those cards are brand new to you and they're very complex, it can be just overwhelming and not really fun. So I'm definitely trying to create a lot of cards that are low on the complexity scale, just so that you can kind of grok quickly what's going on with each card and focus more of your attention on the cards that are hard to evaluate. So Charge and Chuck is not one of those. It's a nice simple card. And then the last card I'll show you today is Yoshi. So Yoshi is a 3/4 for 2 white green. So 4 mana for a 3/4, which isn't like crazy or anything. So this ability to exile, tap Yoshi to exile target creature an opponent controls with toughness 1, then create a 0/1 green egg creature token. So this ability is basically like eating an enemy, eating a minion, and then, you know, popping out an egg. This 0/1 egg token isn't really useful for anything. It's just a kind of a chump blocker if you want it. Like we saw earlier, there's that minions theme. You can spawn minions. They're all 1/1s, so this can eat minions and turn them into eggs. So that's very, you know, on flavor for Yoshi. It can also eat, like, there's a bunch of creatures with 1 toughness in the set. It can eat Lumas. It can eat Tuxie, this penguin, but it can eat a bunch of things that are also like actual minions. Let's see, like Goomba. It can just eat Goomba. It can eat, let's see, 1/1 Shy Guy, the minion tokens. It can eat Dry Bones. So it can eat Dry Bones, and then Dry Bones won't respawn, and so that's actually really on flavor for Dry Bones, because if you eat Dry Bones with Yoshi, it doesn't respawn. Anyway, so I like that ability. And then its second ability is 1 green white, tap, another target creature gets +3/+4 until end of turn. Activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery. So this is like, you know, having a creature hop on Yoshi's back and then they're going at it together. So that's really straightforward. I didn't want it to make it impossible for your opponent to block, so I wanted this not to be an instant speed ability. So this is something you can only attack with, and you have to decide which creature gets the pump before combat. But this fits really well in with the heroes and power-ups theme anyway, because you already probably have a buff creature with evasion, and if it doesn't have evasion, you can use the last ability. Sacrifice Yoshi, another target creature gains flying until end of turn. So some of you may have already figured out what the flavor of this one is. There's this meme of, you know, dumping Yoshi into a pit and jumping off to, you know, get extra reach on your jump or whatever. You just like, you ditch Yoshi and he dies, but, you know, Mario completes the level or whatever. So that's what this one is. It's kind of a joke ability, but it's also kind of not. You can use this, so you can like pump another creature +3/+4 and then give it flying as like a last ditch, you know, get a bunch of damage in effect. So also, this ability can target your eggs, which is kind of like Yoshi throwing the eggs. So there's a lot of ways to use this card, and I think it's got pretty good flavor for Yoshi. So I thought about making it an equipment or a vehicle or something, but then it would have to be an artifact, because every equipment and vehicle has to be an artifact. So that didn't seem right to me. So I decided not to go that way. But I'm really happy with how Yoshi turned out. I'm happy with most of these cards. Some of them I'm going to revisit. Again, Dimentio, kind of some of these abilities seem like they're a little too plain or something, but maybe that's okay. Just easy to, not that hard to evaluate. Anyway, so that's the next 19 cards. We're up to 67 cards, which is enough for like roughly 1.5 players out of the 8 players. So definitely making good progress. Still have a long ways to go. Again, 360 cards is the goal here. 360 cards is enough for 45 players. 45 cards for 8 players, which is the number required for a cube. So yeah, so stay tuned for more of these. Once again, I'll bring it up. I've been doing all of this design live on Twitch, and it's been really, really helpful to have people in Twitch chat kind of giving me extra pairs of eyes, giving suggestions, correcting me on, you know, mistakes I've made, like showing me back. Like originally I had Yoshi as a 2/1 and he could actually eat himself with this ability, and that was really bad. So yeah, so there's, you know, it's been really, really helpful to have just a lot of pairs of eyes and people suggesting things, and I definitely am interacting with the chat, probably more so than any other streams I've ever done. So come check out twitch.tv/SethBling. Give me a follow if you want to know when I'm going live. Twitter.com/SethBling. I also always tweet out when I'm going live. So really easy ways to get yourself involved and participating in this whole process. And I want you guys to come help me out. So otherwise, that's about it. Thanks for watching.